Hey guys, today I'm going to be comparing a couple of Fenix tactical flashlights, one in the 18650, one in the 21700. There's quite a few differences between both of these, so I want to talk about some of those differences and also show you some beam shot comparisons of both of them to show you how they both perform. So overall construction, you can see here they look quite similar, and it's almost like the smaller version here, the PD35. I mean, it uses the same anodization, it uses the same machining, even the battery tube has that same kind of design, the bezel, everything like that. Okay, the difference being is that on the PD36R Pro, you've got the second switch on the tail, okay, whereas you've got the mode selector switch here on the side of the flashlight for the PD35. I think they're constructed very well. They've got this nice smooth anodization, slightly glossy, but they haven't overdone it. In terms of the LEDs, a couple of different LEDs. You've got the SFT40 here on the PD35 V3, and on the right here, you've got the SFT70 on the PD36R Pro. So this one's going to produce a lot more lumens just by the fact that it has that SFT70 in it. So lens and bezel wise, they look pretty similar. I would say that the PD36R Pro is slightly wider, maybe by 1 or 2 millimeters, but I can't tell the difference all too much. One thing I can say though is that the reflector is a little bit deeper. Now both use smooth reflectors, but the reflector is a little bit deeper on the SFT70 there to, I think, just gain a little extra throw, especially with a smaller host like this. If you want it to produce a little bit more range, then you're going to have to go with a deeper reflector, which I think Fenix have done the right thing here. Very simple sort of bezel design here, a little bit of crenulation on the bezel, but it's not sharp, and you're able to see where the lights turn on or not. And I have heard with people taking these things on planes as well, if you've got too sharp crenulation on the top, they can actually confiscate the lights off you. So it's good to see that it's nice and smoothed off on the Fenix range. In terms of the UIs for both these lights, it's pretty much the same. You've got here the main button on the back, which you can hold down halfway to access momentary mode. Okay, once the light's fully pressed, that button's fully pressed, also that sort of light comes on here to tell you the battery voltage, so that's high. You then press this side switch and you can ramp through the 5 modes. Okay, whatever you keep it on, like this one, you turn it off, turn it back on, it memorizes that, which is good. You can also hold down that button. Oops, let me get back to there. Hold down that button to get access to strobe. It does not memorize strobe though. In the case of the PD36R Pro, you don't have any buttons here on the sides of the light, but you do have a Usbc charging port. You don't get that on the PD35. In fact, you have to take that battery out and charge it separately. The good thing is that the battery does come with a charging port, a USB charging port on there, okay? But this one does have the charging inbuilt. But going back to the UI again, got the button, so you can press that button, the main switch there on the back, and difference is, again, you cycle through the modes using the smaller switch, so that's, you just sort of click onto all these different, access them all, and then you can hold it down to access strobe. One thing I've also noticed as well is that when you turn on the flashlight, the PD36R Pro, the light doesn't come on straight away. There's a very, very quick transition, so it just looks, I don't know, it just looks a little bit nicer when you turn it on, rather than it come on all at once. It just sort of slowly fades in. It's so subtle, maybe 200 milliseconds or something like that. In terms of total output, you're going to get a lot more output with the PD36R Pro, obviously, with that SFT70. So it's rated at 2,800 lumens. But from a few other reviews that I've read, it actually can produce up to 3,100 lumens on switch on. Okay, but Fenix just tend to go with a more conservative figure, and especially when you're measuring it at the 30-second mark as well, you're going to get a little bit of decrease in terms of overall lumens. PD35 produces 1,700 lumens, which I think is actually a good thing because the SFT40 can produce 2000 plus lumens, but if you're driving that LED too high, it's going to produce a lot of heat, which is a problem in this host. And I actually found out through some of these beam shot tests that this light is able to perform very well under the highest mode. I think that's one of the reasons why Fenix are not driving this LED at full power. In terms of longevity, you're going to get a lot more runtime out of the PD36R Pro, especially on the lower modes, because you've got that 21700 cell compared to the 18650 cell. Practicality wise, the PD35 is going to be a lot easier to carry along with you. It's lighter as well, so unless you need that extra power, the PD35 is pretty good. But again, this one has onboard charging, so it's another added comfort rather than having to take the battery out, charge it separately, or carry another charger with you if you're using a non-proprietary cell. So if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. I'll do my best to get back to you. There's probably some things that I've forgotten to answer in this video or address. So without further ado, let's head to the beam shots. Little comparison test. I've got here the Fenix PD35 V3.0 versus the Fenix PD36R Pro. Both of these are tactical flashlights from Fenix's range, and PD35 takes the 18650, 36 Pro takes a 21700. Now the 35 contains an SFT40 here on the left. Okay, this is on turbo, and the PD36 Pro contains the SFT70. Okay, so you can already see the amount of light produced by that SFT70 is, I mean, it's just overwhelming. It's ridiculously bright. Okay, but it does ramp down because it produces, you know, a fair bit of heat, I have to say. Okay, so that's the 36 Pro and the PD35 version 3 here. Okay, just want to see how these both run on turbo when they start ramping down, and what kind of outputs they produce and throw. In terms of range, they're pretty similar. Okay, and even at the moment, it's interesting because I think the PD35 is actually throwing further. Yep, PD35 is throwing further. In the beginning, the PD36R Pro was producing more light and throwing further, but you can see the 35 is just has not ramped down as aggressively, and I've still got a lot of visibility off there in the distance. Okay, look at that, amazing. It's still holding up even after 2 minutes. Here on the right, that's the PD here, the PD36R Pro, and yeah, it has started to ramp down significantly, but the light that it's producing is absolutely, it's excellent. I mean, it's large hotspot. You're not going to have any issues with this at all in terms of visibility, but yeah, if you need the extra throw, you want it to sustain throw, I guess, the PD36 would be a good option. Overall lumens, PD36R Pro is great, and also for those quick bursts, tactical mode of incredible throw and output at the same time. Okay, but otherwise, yeah, it's definitely throwing further, that 35 still. Okay, lots of spill, both of them producing decent spill. Let's ramp them. I'm going to ramp them both down to the high modes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, these are both high modes on the 35 on the left and the 36R Pro on the right. Okay, I'd say they're very comparable in terms of throw, but the 36R Pro is producing more spill and still managing to keep up in terms of in the throw department. So on the high modes, I think the 36R Pro is probably the better light to get if you want sustained performance, more brightness and throw combined. I mean, it's actually throwing further than the 35. You see that just on that tree there? It's 36R Pro, 35, 36. Okay, so 36 is throwing further. It's just overall on high, I mean, you're just going to get better performance overall. But still, the 35 is, I mean, it's an excellent performer. It's a lot smaller as well, comparing two different LEDs. They're similar LEDs, but yeah.